We turn now to the border and the fight over a Texas immigration law. The law, known as SB 4, empowers state and local law enforcement to arrest anyone suspected of being an unauthorized migrant and could lead to jail time or deportation to Mexico.
A federal appeals court has put the controversial law back on hold as it weighs whether the new measure can be enforced. And this follows a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that allowed the law to go into effect for several hours. And joining us now from El Paso, Texas, is ABC's Mireya Villarreal. Good to see you, my friend, and thanks for being on.
Hey, good to see you guys as well. A lot going on at the border, as usual, right?
Of course, you know it. So the legal back and forth around this new Texas law has caused a lot of confusion. So what's the latest?
You know, as of right now, confusion is probably an understatement, DeMarco. I mean, really, you could probably interject words like frustration and concern. Regardless of what happens in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, you know, there are still a lot of local law enforcement agencies and local leaders that are left in limbo because they're concerned about funding of SB 4. They're concerned about training when it comes to SB 4. Not to mention, this is all procedural right now. We haven't even gotten to the merits of the case. So right now, yeah, that people are very concerned and confused because, you know, what happens in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals is a small smidge of the larger picture when it comes to this law.
And I'm curious what has been the reaction from Texas law enforcement?
I mean, as of right now, we've spoken to a number of people on several sides of this case. When you talk to DPS troopers, they say we are ready and willing and have been planning for SB 4 to be implemented for months now. We've taken the template of what we use with Operation Lone Star, which is their initiative to try and slow the flow of migrants by arresting them for criminal trespassing. We've taken that template when it comes to transportation, when it comes to, you know, going through a magistrate and then eventually trying to get them out of the country by working with the federal authorities. We're going to use that with the implementation of SB 4. So if you talk to the troopers, they are ready to go. But when you talk to local law enforcement agencies, especially in places like El Paso, Texas, they are still in a state of confusion and concern. For them, it's a resources situation. It's a training situation. They don't have the money right now to implement this. They don't have the money to put people on overtime, to bring them in, to use this or to make this a priority. So for them, and speaking to several of their commanders in the sheriff's department, for example, he said, listen, we're going to enforce the laws that are actually in the books right now, the laws that make a priority of our people here. But we're not going to enforce immigration laws that are meant to be for federal agents. And I think that's what we're hearing from a lot of local law enforcement. They like the concept of what this could be, but there are still a lot of questions.
So what comes next in this ongoing legal battle? Speaking of questions.
Yeah. So that is the big question, right? I think right now we are still waiting on the procedural parts of this. You know, what is happening in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. There's a good chance that that will get appealed once again to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then it'll go back to the lower court, right? Really, eventually, in the next few weeks, we will have a debate. We will have the case be heard on the merits. Is SB 4 legal? But until then, we're still kind of in limbo right now, which means we may or may not have this law in place at some point.
And what are the numbers looking like right now at the border?
You know, I think that's a very good question because that actually plays into the essence of SB 4 and the argument that we are hearing from the governor's office especially. You know, when we were looking at the numbers back in December, on one particular day, we saw a record-setting number of 11,000 apprehensions at the border along the southwest border in just one single day. And numbers like that were being reported all throughout December. Now, today, we're looking at an average of about 4,000 migrant apprehensions along the southwest border. And while that number still seems a little high for some of these communities, it's manageable. And there are processes in place in order to help not just federal agents, but local law enforcement agents as well. But again, the weather right now is still very cold in a lot of the border cities. As it starts to warm up, we could see an increase in those apprehensions. And then again, with the chaos that is happening with SB 4 and also what's happening on the federal level, not being being able to get a border security package, passed, and funding to federal agents. All of that plays into what the cartels are telling migrants that are coming over from the South and all across the world, wanting to come to the United States. Again, we could see those numbers increase, but as of right now, they're holding steady right around 4,000 apprehensions in a single day.
All right, Mireya Villarreal, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.